Hello, my dear students. I hope in our last lesson you people really enjoyed making the potato block, the printing block, and the matchstick block, again for printing. Or maybe you tried your hand with a cookie cutter, or the sponge, or the leaves. Today we are going to talk about making designs and understanding the placement. While making designs with the help of various objects, we will have to keep in mind the use of color combination and the knowledge of placement of design. Objective of today's class is, after going through this unit, you will be able to gain an insight about making designs, understand the concept of placement, and once you have mastered the insight of making the design and the concept of placement, you're going to really enjoy your block printing. Introduction. When developing your own designs, you will have to pay attention towards the space available on the surface to be printed and create the motifs as well as designs accordingly. Motif. A motif is the most basic unit or the smallest unit of pattern. Each motif is usually developed from a geometrical shape or a combination of different geometrical shapes. Basically, we put the lines, or rather first we put the dots on the surface of the paper. The dots, when joined together, make a line. When various lines join together, make a shape, and these shapes form a motif. If we stick to the angular part of the shape, that is the lines only, then we get the geometrical shape. But then, if we add curves to it, we get an angular motif. Types of motifs. Motifs can be got from various sources, like I just said. That if we add little curves like we see in the flowers, so we will say that this particular motif has been inspired from flowers. As while making this motif, we will not only have the lines, but here we can cut them into shapes. Like if we want to have the petals, we want to have the pollens, we want to have the stamen of the flower, or we want to have attach the leaves and the stems, then that particular motif will be known as a floral motif. What is a radial motif? These forms are centralized and radiating from the center point, rather they come out from the center point, and these are circular in shape. Linear motifs. In these, we have curved outlines and are generally delivered from floral or organic forms. They do not have angles or sharp edges. Geometric motifs. These are based on basic geometric shapes such as squares, circles, rectangles, and triangles. And they make interesting motifs that can be created with them individually or in combination. Abstract. Stylized forms that may be combination of geometrics as well as curvilinear shapes, and they don't have anything to do with the floral or things would be known as the abstract. Abstract is something which is in your mind. It is not the exact replica of what you see, but a kind of a shape which is in your mind and you have presented it. Design. The designs that we make and develop are based on a theme. They are some inspirations and a particular style. Designs can be created with or without combination of different motifs. Placement of design. All the techniques applied on the fabric require the motifs or designs to be placed on such surface in interesting and artistic combinations. The positioning of the motif on the surface is called placement of design. Any motif or pattern can be used to create a design on a given surface when placed correctly. Placement are dependent on the surface between the motifs in a design. Placements of motifs can be in the same direction, or the space can remain the same, but the direction or the space of the motif can be in different directions, or the motifs can change. There are 6 different types of placement. They are equidistant, half-drop placement, all-over placement, check placement, radial placement, horizontal placement, vertical placement. Now I am going to tell you about each placement we have. The equidistant placement, when the motifs are placed at equal distance on vertical or horizontal sides, it is known as an equidistant placement. Half-drop placement. When a motif is placed at 4 corners of a square, grid, and also in center, and this is repeated, this is known as a half-drop placement. All-over placement. When the motifs are placed in a random order all over the surface with regular spacing and with no prominent direction, then it is known as an all-over placement. This particular placement can be seen from either side, and it will look perfect from any side you look at. These kind of placements are generally used for furnishing fabrics. Stripe placement. When the motifs are placed in vertical direction, we call it a vertical placement. If we really look at it, a vertical stripe will give length. If you want to use a particular placement for a lady who is short, we are going to use a vertical placement. When the motifs are placed in horizontal directions, it is called horizontal placement. A horizontal stripe would cut the length. If we are printing for a lady who is extremely tall, or the room where we are printing the wallpaper for is a huge, very high room, very high ceilings, we are going to use the horizontal stripes. When the motifs are placed in a diagonal direction, it is called diagonal placement. Depending on what type of fabric you people are printing or what type of paper you are using, maybe you are using that paper for wallpaper, then you have to see where you are placing that particular paper or the cloth, and accordingly you are going to choose whether it is a vertical stripe or a horizontal stripe or a diagonal stripe. And a diagonal stripe will give the length but at the same time also cut it. If we are using the motif to be placed for a lady who is not very fat, not very thin, we are going to use a diagonal stripe placement. Also, the diagonal stripe placement, if we are using it for a wallpaper, will make the room roomier. Rather, when I say it will make the room roomier, I mean it will make the room big. Check placement. When the motifs are placed in a check pattern, it is called vertical or horizontal check placement. These can be used for your bedspreads, for your dining sheets, for your curtains also at times, but generally vertical placement would look better on that. Secondly, the check placement, the motifs are placed in diagonal check patterns. It is called diagonal check placement. Radial placement. When the motifs are placed around in a circular or retreating manner, it is called a radial placement. Maybe if you have a round dining table, a radial placement would look extremely nice, because on a round dining table we cannot use the squares or the horizontal or the vertical stripes, but yes, we can definitely use the radial placement. Summing up, by now you must have gained some knowledge into concept of motive, design and placement. Placement of design is an important aspect in the development of any printing fabric. In this unit, we learned how a motif can be repeated in many ways to create various placements. Also learned that by placing motifs in a particular type, like maybe the equidistant or the half drop, or the all over, or the vertical, horizontal, or diagonal stripe, or the check placement, or the radial placement, we were able to bring out the beauty of the fabric or the paper, the handmade paper we were trying to print. Possible answers to the self-check questions. There are 6 types of placements: equidistant placement, half drop placement, all over placement, stripes placement, check placement, radial placement. Motive. A motive is the most basic unit or the smallest unit of the pattern. Each motive is usually developed from a geometrical shape or a combination of different geometrical shapes. Design. Design has some inspiration and a particular style. Design can be created with or without combination of different motifs. Thank you.